David Elcott here from Devon Personal Trainer, coming to you with a little video today about fear and threat. Now, there's a lot of talk going around with some coaches about threat perception and what you perceive as threat, and I'm just going to use a little story. I've been reading my kids the Gruffalo a lot recently, and I'm actually going to use the Gruffalo as an example about fear and threat, because a lot of these times, what you've got going around the internet at the moment is a lot of videos and a lot of talk about, it's about threat and identifying your threat and then trying to remove the threat. And sometimes it's the perception of the threat. Well, what happens if it's one of those times where, where, excuse my language, but shit is really bad, and you can't actually do a lot? Sometimes it's a case of trying to change your perception, but that can be quite challenging when you're in the middle, when you're knee deep up the river with no paddle. So I'm actually going to use the Gruffalo as an example, how instead of trying to change your perception of the threat, why don't you take that fear, whatever it is, and use the fear instead? And I use the little character mouse, and if you've not read the book, one, I recommend you go out and get it because it is a great book. Two, he basically is going through the woods looking for a nut to eat, like most mice do. Little analogy, we're going through our life looking for the stuff that we want, and he comes across a fox, and the fox tries to eat him. Now, the fox could be whatever your first fear is. Fear of failure is an example, but instead of giving into it, he actually turns around to the fox and says, actually, fox, you don't want to eat me, because the Gruffalo is going to come along in a second and he's going to eat you. So he flips fear back round on fear. It makes fear afraid of another fear, a greater fear, and the fox is like, whoa, actually, okay, good point, see you later. And then he comes across an owl. Now, the owl could be your second fear, whatever that is, fear of loss. And he says, actually, owl, you don't want to eat me, alright? Because the Gruffalo is going to eat you when he comes along and meets me. Owl's like, hang on a minute, see you later. Boom, gone, no owl. So that's the second fear conquered. Okay. Third fear, snake. Meets a snake. Snake wants to eat him. Tiny little mouse, looks lovely. And he says, no, actually, snake, you don't want to eat me. Gruffalo's going to come along and eat you in a second. He's like, oh, okay. Snake's gone. And then he's walking around the corner and bang. Now, this is, I think, where the story really has a great metaphor for life, right? We've all got these basic fears on the surface, but a lot of the time, 99.9% of the time, there's a bigger fear behind it, right? There's something else that is driving it, and that's your Gruffalo. Alright, and I'm going to put a little sheet below the video that will get you to identify what it is, why it is. You'll identify your top 3 fears, and then at the end I want you to identify your Gruffalo. And what mouse does, and sometimes, this might be fear of, fear of rejection, or, God knows, self-esteem. You fear that you're not worthy. When he meets the Gruffalo, again, rather than stopping and going, oh my god, he turns around and says, well, actually, no, Gruffalo, you don't want to eat me, because I'm actually the scariest creature in this wood. Effectively, what he turns around to fear says is, actually, fear, I'm not afraid of you, not because you're not scary, but because I'm scarier than you. So instead of, when you're in that moment of crap, rather than saying, oh, this is going to get better, this is going to get better, flip it round and actually say, actually, not just better, but I'm actually more scarier than you. What fears can you literally do a 180 on? What is your Gruffalo? And what can you flip round? Because what mouse then does is he walks back through the woods with the Gruffalo behind him and meets the creatures, the fox, the owl, and the snake again, and they all run off. And then at the end of the book, he turns around to the Gruffalo and basically says, right then, my favourite food is Gruffalo crumble. And the Gruffalo runs off, alright? So how can you overcome your biggest fears towards fat loss, or any other goal in your life, whatever they are? I'm going to put some things below the video on the blog. Go through it, and flip your Gruffalo round, alright? So that you can eat your nuts at the end, just like mouse. So that's Dave Elcott from DevonPersonalTrainer.com talking to you about the Gruffalo's nuts. And all I've got to say is, a mouse went through the deep dark wood. The mouse found a nut, and the nut looked good. Thanks very much, guys.